In a city where art was everything, Julian Croft was a celebrated photographer. His images were admired, his talent undeniable. But behind the lens, a darkness grew. Julian's obsession with beauty twisted into something dangerous. He became fixated on Ilara Vance, a dancer whose presence electrified the city's art scene. To Julian, she was more than a muse. She was the perfect subject, the key to his legacy. The line between artist and subject blurred, then vanished. He was no longer just a photographer. He was a hunter, and Ilara, unknowingly, his prey. Julian Croft's true masterpiece was a portrait of terror. The camera never lies, but the person behind it can. Beware the artist who cannot let go. Julian Croft wasn't always a monster. He was once a boy with a camera, finding color in a gray town. His parents encouraged his gift, and he chased his dream to the city. In college, his raw, emotional style stood out. He quickly rose in the art world, known for portraits that revealed hidden truths. To be photographed by Julian was to be truly seen. His dedication was legendary, waiting hours for the perfect light, doing whatever it took for the shot. At first, this was seen as genius, but there were warning signs. He became possessive of his subjects, invested in their lives beyond the lens. He saw people as components of his art, his to arrange and control. His language was aggressive. He spoke of capturing, owning moments. It was dismissed as artist talk. No one imagined where it would lead. Julian's passion was a double-edged sword. His intensity masked a growing darkness. He believed his art justified everything. The art world celebrated his vision, blind to the danger. Looking back, the signs were there. His obsession was not just with images, but with control. He crossed boundaries, but no one stopped him. The line between dedication and obsession blurred. Genius became an excuse. The seeds of tragedy were sown long before anyone noticed. Julian's story is a warning. Sometimes the artist's eye hides a predator. The beauty he captured was only half the story. The rest was hidden in the shadows. And those shadows were growing. No one saw the darkness until it was too late. Julian's obsession with Ilara began innocently. He saw her dance and was captivated. Their first photo shoot was stunning, but Julian wanted more. He started following her, insisting it was for his art. Ilara, flattered at first, grew uneasy. The admiration became surveillance. For Julian, it was no longer a project. It was his life's work. The camera became a tool of intimidation. Ilara's fear grew. The line between art and violation was crossed. Ilara was trapped in his frame. The perfect shot was never enough. The first public crack appeared on a rainy Tuesday. Ilara and a friend spotted Julian photographing them through a cafe window. He didn't hide. He wanted to be seen. Ilara's friend confronted him, but Julian claimed artistic freedom. Ilara reported him to the police, but he hadn't made a direct threat. The police warned him, but it was just another obstacle to Julian. Ilara filed for a restraining order, presenting evidence of his stalking. The judge granted it. Julian was ordered to stay away. For a moment, Ilara felt relief. Friends hoped the legal barrier would end it. But the restraining order only enraged Julian. He saw it as a public humiliation, a theft of his art. In his mind, Ilara was destroying something beautiful. He stopped his public stalking, but didn't stop watching. He became more secretive, his obsession festering in the dark. The cracks in his public image were now impossible to ignore. Ilara tried to reclaim her life, but the fear lingered. Julian's obsession had gone underground, growing more toxic. The city's art scene whispered, but few acted. The legal system had drawn a line, but Julian was determined to cross it. The sense of safety was fragile. The threat was still there, lurking just out of sight. Ilara's world was shrinking. Julian's fixation was undeterred. The cracks in the canvas were spreading. The story was spiraling toward disaster. The warning signs were clear, but the worst was yet to come. After the restraining order, things went quiet. Too quiet. Alara began to hope it was over, but Julian was waiting, watching from a distance, planning. One winter night, as Alara left her studio, Julian struck. He violated the restraining order, camera and weapon in hand. The attack was swift and brutal, a calculated act, not a crime of passion. He confronted her, demanded one last photo. When she tried to escape, he attacked with a tire iron. The violence was the culmination of months of obsession and rejection. In his mind, if he couldn't possess her in art, he'd destroy her in reality. After the attack, Julian did the unthinkable. He photographed Alara one final time. His masterpiece was a grotesque perversion of his talent. He had captured his subject, frozen her forever. Only then did he disappear into the night. The city awoke to tragedy. The art world was shattered. The pursuit of beauty had ended in horror. Julian's obsession had claimed its victim. The perfect shot was a portrait of violence. The story had reached its darkest frame. Alara's light was extinguished. Julian's legacy was now one of terror. The artist had become a monster. The city mourned, but the damage was done. The warning signs had been ignored. The cost was a life. The final photograph was not art, it was evidence. The tragedy was complete. The shadow had won. News of Alara's murder shocked the city. Grief swept through the arts community. But as the investigation unfolded, suspicion turned to Julian Croft. Friends revealed the stalking, the restraining order, the fear Alara lived with. The art world was in disbelief. How could a celebrated artist commit such horror? Denial gave way to horror when police found Julian's final, chilling photographs. The images were undeniable proof. The genius they'd admired was a killer. Admiration turned to disgust. Galleries removed his work. Museums hid his photos. Magazines condemned him. His name became synonymous with creative obsession gone wrong. The art community was forced to confront its own blindness. Had they enabled his behavior, ignored the warning signs? The process of creation had become the path to murder. The debate raged. How could art and violence be so intertwined? The truth was in the photographs. The unveiling was complete. The artist's legacy was destroyed. The city mourned not just Alara, but its own innocence. The cost of ignoring obsession was now clear. To understand this tragedy, we must look into Julian's mind. Experts called it obsessive passion, when identity fuses with a goal until nothing else matters. For Julian, photography was his entire self-worth. Alara became a symbol, not a person, the key to his ultimate achievement. He objectified her, bypassing empathy, justifying his actions as artistic dedication. This is common in extreme narcissism, believing normal rules don't apply. Rejection was catastrophic for Julian. Alara's refusal and the restraining order shattered his fragile ego. The violence was a desperate attempt to regain control. In his mind, her death was a final victory. He had the last shot. The art world's admiration had masked a sickness. The line between passion and obsession was crossed. Julian's story is a warning about unchecked genius. The pursuit of art became a path to destruction. The mind of the maker was a labyrinth of darkness. The tragedy was not just in the act, but in the obsession that led to it. The warning signs were there, hidden in plain sight. The cost of ignoring them was fatal. The artist's mind became his prison. The case against Julian Croft was overwhelming. His stalking was documented, the restraining order on record. The camera's memory card held the final damning images. The trial captivated the city. Julian's defense claimed he was a tortured artist, lost in his process. The prosecution showed a cold, calculating predator who knew right from wrong. The jury saw through the myth of the tortured genius. They saw a stalker turned murderer. Julian was found guilty of first-degree murder. The judge sentenced him to life in prison, no parole. Justice was served, at least in the eyes of the law. The man who hid behind a camera would spend his life in darkness. His final masterpiece was a life sentence. The art world was left to reckon with its own complicity. The city tried to heal. Ilara's memory became a call for vigilance. The story was over, but the lessons remained. Justice had focused on the truth. The shadow was finally exposed. The story of Julian and Ilara is a tragedy and a warning. It shows how unchecked obsession can destroy, even when cloaked in art. For women, especially in creative fields, it's a call to trust intuition and set boundaries. Ilara did everything right. She spoke up, went to the police, got a restraining order. The system failed her, but her actions created a record and alerted others. The art world learned the hard way. Talent is no excuse for harm. Boundaries are essential for safety and respect. Ignoring red flags in the name of genius has consequences. Ilara's story is now a beacon. Speak up, set boundaries, trust your gut. Never let someone else's obsession dim your light. The final exposure is this: art must never come at the cost of humanity. The lesson is clear: admire the art, but never ignore the shadows. The tragedy is a call to vigilance. Ilara's light endures as a warning and a guide. That is the final and most important exposure.